Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to another video. I'm finally here to sit down and recap my first ever marathon for you guys. Before I get into that, I do want to say I hope your summers are going well. I started my internship a few weeks ago, actually like a month ago at this point almost, and it's going really well. Unfortunately, I can't really film while I'm there, so my normal vlogs are kind of difficult to make. But yeah, this video isn't about academics or internships or whatever. This is about my running career and about the marathon that I ran back in May. So in the past, I've run a total of 4 half marathons. I started running in 2020, right around when I started college. And before that, I just played soccer, so I had some athleticism, I guess, coming in from that, but never really run any long distance. The longest I'd probably run was like a 2-mile cool down jog during practice or during a shakeout session before a game. So didn't really have any long distance experience. Started in 2020, ran 4 half marathons, 2 in my home state of Rhode Island. I ran the Austin half marathon, and I also ran a half marathon in Nashville. In this video, I plan on recapping the entire race, including my training, the taper weeks leading up to it, what went wrong during the race, and a few of my favorite moments. So let's dive right in. I always knew that I wanted to get up to the full distance, the full marathon, so it was a no-brainer. I actually ran the Austin half marathon back in February, where I focused on running that and the whole BPN ambassador weekend, and that kind of sparked my true motivation to run a full marathon. So I trained a little bit for that half. It was a bit more spontaneous, so maybe trained like 2 or 3 weeks, then ran the half marathon in February, and then I signed up for the full marathon that I'd be running in May. So that gave me just a few months. I planned on continuing my half marathon training and just like creating one giant marathon training block. Training started off really well. I was pretty motivated even though it was winter, and I started off by using the BPN, or Bare Performance Nutrition training app, their marathon training plan, because I feel like that training plan actually matched up where my level was coming in. Unfortunately, I was trying to accomplish this during my junior year spring semester at university, and it was just a lot. It was a lot to try to balance, to really make those workouts count, and then run to class, and then properly recover, because on my rest days, I'd still be like running all over campus, trying to walk to classes. So that plan kind of got thrown out the window per se. So I ended up not including any real like workouts, speed sessions, tempo threshold, like I didn't really do any of that. I just stuck to more easy running. I'd run easy most days, and I'd have my long run on the weekends. And I still used the app to kind of gauge what my weekly mileage should be. So I started just below like 30 miles a week and eventually worked that all the way up to just over 40 miles a week. Again, kind of started with a 13-mile long run, which was the Austin half marathon, and worked all the way up to a 20-mile long run, was my longest long run. Now, because I kind of transitioned to running all of my training runs at an easier pace, I had to change my mindset going into the race. So the goal, the mindset quickly became just to finish the distance. I didn't have any pace goal, any time goal, because I had a lot of external stressors with school going on, and I wasn't really putting in the work to get any faster. So I was just like, okay, I want to be able to cover the distance. I want to say I'm a marathon runner, however long that takes me. That's what's going to happen. So I'm glad I set that expectation for myself pretty early on in the training block, because it made what happened at the end of the training block a little bit easier to take. Let me explain. So towards the end of the training block, we're talking like right before the 2 taper weeks at the end, I just felt super unmotivated. I had no energy. I was super fatigued. I bet I was a little bit overtrained. Now, it wasn't like I was running crazy mileage or I wasn't doing any crazy workouts, but I think just everything coming together with the end of the semester, studying for finals, like all this stuff, I think I just mentally kind of broke down a bit. So I decided, instead of trying to like push through that mindset, push through maybe acquire an injury, I said, okay, I'm gonna take 4 or 5 days off. So I ended up taking like a Friday through a Tuesday off. And then when I came back on that next week, I just kept the runs a little shorter, tried to find my passion and motivation again, because I also knew a big part of me finishing this marathon was gonna be to make sure I actually enjoyed it. If I was just trying to like muscle through it the whole time, probably wasn't gonna happen. So that was kind of the first major roadblock in my marathon training. But after taking some time off, I started to feel a bit more motivated again, probably because the race was so soon in the future, but I'll take it. Now, unfortunately, that feeling of motivation was pretty short-lived because heading into the taper, I started having runner's knee flare up in my left knee, which if you guys have seen my first ever half marathon video, you know I was battling with some runner's knee there too. So that was, I think, another sign in my body just being like, we're done with the training, we're done. But this, I actually, because I had dealt with before, I knew stretches and exercises to do to really strengthen that knee and help it out in the recovery process. So I didn't change much, also because I got sick. So it was just a perfect storm where I didn't feel well, I had a pretty nasty cold, my knee felt awful, and I was heading into the taper. So yeah, I was very excited for this race. The 2 taper weeks themselves included no running. I think I ran once, actually, like a 2-3 mile run a few days before the race just to make sure that I could still run. But I actually got in the pool twice at my university and tried out some swimming. I went on the elliptical a lot, I went on the bike, just every cross-training exercise under the sun to try to feel like I was getting a little bit of an aerobic workout, but not put any strain on my knee, make sure I'm still recovering from my sickness. It was a whole thing, but we made it. The end of the 12 official weeks, really technically like 14, 16 weeks, we were done. I did my 20-mile long run, finished, taper, felt pretty nasty, but like I was going into the marathon feeling ready for it. I knew I could probably do it, and again, my only goal was to finish the race. The night before the race, I had spaghetti and meatballs for dinner, and then I had like a Rice Krispies treat and ice cream for dessert. Definitely stuck to the carb load, and also like the full week before, I was increasing my fueling, increasing my carb intake, because I wanted to be as topped off on glycogen stores and carbohydrate stores as possible. And then before I knew it, it was race morning. So I woke up at like 4:30. The race was only a half hour away from where I lived, so I was able to stay at home and sleep in my own bed, which was nice. I made my pre-race oats, which I make for like every race I do. This had Quaker Oats, BPN protein, super solid, highly recommend for protein oatmeal. So I had some of that. I had some extra salt in there, some strawberries. It's a great combo, definitely fueled me properly. Also before the race, I had a small cup of coffee just to get a little bit of caffeine, and I started sipping on some BPN electrolytes, which I also took with me in the car and like kept sipping on up until the race started. In terms of my gear, from head to toe, I was wearing the BPN running hat with a Junk brand headband underneath. I had my Gooder sunglasses that I wear for literally every race. I only have one pair of these sunglasses, and again, I've worn them for every single race, so feels like a bit of a superstition now. For actual clothes, I was wearing a Lululemon tank top and sports bra, and then the iconic chicken legs running shorts. These are the chalky milk cows. So cute, absolutely love these. I get a ton of compliments when I wear them, especially on race day. I used an Amphipod running belt, I think that's how you pronounce it, to carry goos, which were gonna be my fuel for the race, extra headphones, and my phone. And then I also carried a Nathan like handheld water bottle that had BPN electrolytes in there. On my feet, I was wearing the Features crew socks, just plain black socks, and my shoe of choice was the Nike Vaporfly Next% 2s, which I think worked really well. First time ever using a carbon plate in a race. Time went by really quickly in the morning. My parents brought me to the race, and my boyfriend Sam ended up meeting me there. And before I knew it, I was at the starting line. I didn't really know how to feel. I was excited, but there were so many unknowns. I had only run 20 miles in training, and so that means like running an extra 10K, extra 6.2 miles. I had no idea how that was gonna feel. So I was a bit nervous, but again, just was like, okay, Lauren, somehow, one way or another, we are gonna cross that finish line. So I ended up starting out with the 8:45 minute per mile pacer. because that's what I thought I would be able to hold on to for 26 miles. And granted, in like a normal training block and maybe training speed a bit more, all that, I feel like I could definitely do it. The fact that I started out that hot, not a great idea. Also coming off a taper where I barely ran, it was just a recipe for, I don't want to say disaster, but to not have a great time. So I stuck with them for the first like 5 miles, and I will say around mile 3, I tripped and fell on my face on the pavement. No exaggeration, I scraped up my knees pretty bad, and that was definitely a little confidence shaker. Wasn't super injured, like I kept running, but I was like, oh, okay, that kind of hurt. We're only like 3 miles in. Hopefully nothing really happened. Then at mile like 5, 6-ish is when I hit my first low. And this is really early to feel this crappy, I guess. I don't know. Maybe it's not, but I had run long runs in my training, 14, 16 miles, that felt easy. I would finish the run and feel great, like I could run more. And that's what I was hoping for the race, but that did not happen. And mile 5, 6, I kind of started to break down a little bit. I was like, if I feel this bad right now, I don't know how I'm gonna run another 20 miles. So I actually ended up calling Sam on the course, and I told him what was going on. At that point, I had stopped to walk for a little bit because there was a crazy uphill and I was just getting really down on myself. And he said all the right things, and the biggest piece of advice and thing he told me was to stop sticking with that pacer and just pace myself and run my own race, and just, again, try to remember to have fun, remember what you're doing this for. So I really took that to heart, and at that point on, I started running at my own pace, not really looking at my watch, just trying to go based off of feel, which at this point, because I was feeling very shaken and unmotivated, it was pretty slow, but that's okay. Just kept putting one foot in front of the other. I took my first goo around mile 8, and generally going into this race, I planned to take a goo around every hour mark. It ended up being every like hour and 10, which honestly, for my next marathon, next races, I'm really gonna play around with fueling because I have no idea if that's actually like good for me or if I should have been doing like every 45 minutes or what. I didn't feel like I bonked for the whole race or felt like low or anything, but I don't know, definitely something that I want to play around with in the future. At halfway, mile 13.1, I definitely thought how nice it would be to just be done with the race right now, but we kept trucking along. I had another 13.1 to do, and honestly miles like 13 to 20 were more of the same. I would go through really high points where I'd be like, okay, I feel good, and then I'd go through some really low lows where I was like, I need to walk, I need to stop. I didn't stop, I did walk a few times, but all that judgment, self-judgment of walking during a race like completely went out the window because I was there to finish the race no matter what it took, and walking's okay. Now, the classic saying of the race doesn't start until mile 20, it's really like a 20-mile warm-up and a 6.2 or a 10K race. It's all true. Mile 20 hit, and I remember starting to really feel it. My runner's knee, my knees were starting to ache and feel gross, and I was like, how am I gonna do this? My music was starting to get bland at that point. It just wasn't great. It was also starting to get really hot out. Not an excuse, but just something to note. But we freaking did it. And those 6.2 miles came and went. I remember crossing the finish line and seeing both of my parents and Sam there cheering me on, and it was such an insane moment.
Yeah, buddy! Girl?
So, not that time is super important, but maybe you guys are curious. If you are, my watch said I ran 26.5 miles instead of 26.2. So based off of my watch and like the chip time, I ran 4 hours, 52 minutes, and 52 seconds. So right under that 5-hour mark. I don't know what to say other than I met my goal. I freaking did it. I'm a marathon runner. Not a lot of people can say that. Am I hungry for more? Yes. Do I want to try to BQ in the future? Yes. Do I think I can do it? Yes. So I would say more than anything, I'm just completely motivated now. Motivated by the time, motivated by my experience. I want to go out there the next time I want to run a marathon and freaking train, get in the speed workouts, fuel myself to the best of my ability, just go all in and try to get something faster. I am more motivated now than ever before, which is funny because when I finished that race, I was like, I'm never running again. 2 hours later, I was like, when's the next one? When am I signing up? So anyway, sorry if that was a bit all over the place, but that was my marathon experience. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please let me know if you want to hear more about anything to do with athletics in my life, whether that be running, lifting, triathlon, any of that. I'm all into it. So yeah, just leave a comment down below. Any questions, comments, concerns you have, leave them in the comments. If you guys have run a marathon, half marathon, if you're currently training, leave some stories down below. I'd love to read your guys' experiences. Yeah, I hope you guys are staying happy, staying healthy out there, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.